All right. Thank you so much for checking out Staying Sane in Your Job Search. We're really excited as Career Services to be having a conversation with our personal counselor here on campus, Bobbi Meister. I think to just get us started, we're going to just hear from both Career Services as well as the personal counselor how things have changed maybe in your world. Obviously, we're not physically on campus and students would be stopping by our office or things like that. Just maybe update us on what's the protocol now? How are you still managing your caseload or talking with students? Stacie, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so from a career services standpoint, we still are offering all the same kinds of services that we were offering to students previous to this, including helping students who are looking for jobs or summer internships or fall internships. Primarily, we are taking most of those appointments right now, either by phone or web conference, and those still can be scheduled on Handshake just like before. The web conferences have been really nice in the sense of we can share our screens, we can bring up resumes, we can kind of collaborate on how those might go. In addition, both Alex and I are still answering emails that students have about anything that's career related. And during this kind of downtime where everybody's experiencing a little bit of downtime, could be a good time to really focus on your career development, and we're still here to help you.
Most definitely. And Bobbi, I got to imagine it's kind of evolved or changed a little bit from when you were on campus as well. Talk to me a little bit about those steps that students can still take advantage of your services.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely still offering services. They're being held via like a telehealth or a video chat. I also can do phone call counseling sessions. But with the social distancing rules in place and with not many students left on campus, I am working from home. And so being in an office, in such a small office, we definitely can't do the face-to-face sessions anymore. And so the telecounseling has been working pretty well. You can schedule an appointment just like normal. I have the exact same link. It's just a different option as far as what kind of appointment you're going to get. So I am available all the way through the end of May, and hopefully people will utilize that.
Yeah, perfect. And I can imagine now is an important time, especially with finals wrapping up and where students are and just keeping in mind this job search, that's for sure. And speaking of the job search, Stacie, you and I talk about this often about just how the job market has kind of evolved and changed a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about what you're hearing from employers.
Mm-hmm. So there still are a lot of employers who are hiring. There are also employers who have decided not to hire or who have rescinded offers. So students are kind of seeing all aspects of the spectrum right now. I think one of the things to note about this generation of students, and especially those who have been in college for the last 4 years, most of those students have really experienced a very robust economy, a very demand-driven job market, and that's different now. So in the past, when I've talked with students and they've said things like, I've never had to look for a job, or jobs have always just come to me, it's going to take a little bit of a mental shift and kind of an adjustment to your attitude and your motivational level, but there still are jobs out there. And there's also some very specific strategic ways that you can job search, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, just kind of that mental adjustment to how we maybe have had things over the last 4 years and then going into the future. I got to imagine that that's what you're hearing a lot. Bobbi, can you talk about some of that? How students are handling this, or hearing from students what they're maybe going through?
Yeah. Well, everything's changed right now. We're definitely going through a lot of transition, and it seems like it's constant. There's always something new coming out as far as rules with physical distancing or what businesses are open or whatnot. And so there, with that, of course, comes some stress and anxiety symptoms. And so that it's to be expected that people are going to be going through that. And so it just really is a lot to be mindful of, especially when you're looking about searching for jobs and whatnot, that, you may have some added stress and anxiety on top of that, and that's okay. I'm here, you can talk to me, definitely connect with your resources like Career Services, and they're going to help you work through that. And you definitely are going to need to reach out more, I think, now than you would in the past, just because we're socially disconnected, we're a distance apart. So you're going to have to be a lot more proactive to reach people.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point is, you know, even though, as Stacie said, the job market is shifting a little bit or evolving, that there still are those jobs, but it's important to kind of change up your strategy, like you said, and be a little more proactive. Stacie, can you talk through some of those ways that students can be proactive in their job search and just looking forward to maybe summer employment or a full-time career of what they could do?
Absolutely. Well, one of the very first ways that we always recommend to students about job search is to utilize Handshake. So Handshake is a service that Morningside College pays for. All students have access to that. And it's really our best resource for jobs that are available both locally as well as nationally. And I'm going to share my screen really quick here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. But I think it's important, this is the student view of Handshake. It's important when we talk about searching online that you are starting from a very general approach and you're moving to more of a specific approach. So most job search websites allow you to have filters and to add lots of information. And it's helpful to know that the more information you have, the harder it is to kind of match with positions. So on Handshake, one of our filters is job type, right? Internship, co-op, on-campus job, full-time or part-time. I actually don't recommend that students filter by these filters. There's many times that an employer will post a regular job or they'll post a part-time job that could be full-time or a full-time job that could be part-time. And so using those filters don't always give you all the results that you need. So usually I recommend that a student start searching by their geographic location first, and then kind of go on from there. So if I do a search for Sioux City right now on Handshake, there still are 73 jobs available, okay? And for me, 73 isn't that many to just kind of scroll through really quick, but if that feels overwhelming to you, then you should start to add a couple more general sort of search terms. So maybe here I'll enter summer. And I'm not saying internship or job, I'm just saying summer. And when I add that to my search, it doesn't change anything. So that's important. You have to keep kind of doing things, right? The other thing, no, it did change. It changed to 16 then, right? So then that comes up to 16 positions that are available. So kind of helps you in managing some of those expectations and searching in different ways. The other reason that I don't recommend that you search by job title is because everybody calls job titles something different. And sales is a good example of that. So sales can be called sales. It can be called client services rep. It can be called an account manager or an account executive. And so it's really difficult to know exactly what the job title of a job is. And so the cool thing about Handshake is you can search by skills. So you could search using writing or speaking or people, and that's going to help you kind of log on to those kinds of things. The other way that I suggest that students search a little bit more strategically is by using Google. And by Google, I don't mean Googling jobs like saying summer jobs in Sioux City, right? I'm talking about being really strategic about identifying where are maybe some of the companies that you might want to target. So one of the searches that I like to do is major employers in Sioux City, right? That's always going to bring you to either a chamber page or a Wikipedia page that's going to give you some information of who major employers are. And then you can go to their websites and you can search. If you're searching for companies that have headquarters in a certain city, headquarters or corporate headquarters are almost always going to have various kinds of positions available. So they do all of their business operations in there, their marketing, their communications. So there's a wide variety of jobs to be found from that. In addition, if you're looking on a chamber site, every chamber of commerce has a membership directory or a business directory that you can search. And by searching that, you're able to identify what organizations are within particular kinds of industries. Okay, so if I go on here to the chamber and I go to the business directory, it's going to bring up for me that search. And here's all of the different kinds of organizations that I can look at. So let's say that I'm looking for a job in the nonprofit sector. This is a category that I could look at: government, community, and civic organizations. This takes me to all of the organizations that meet that criteria and links me to their websites. So then I can immediately visit their websites and see what sort of positions are available. Finally, I really encourage people to think strategically about, especially right now with COVID-19, what are the organizations or the industries that are still hiring at a rapid pace? And at this point, that's going to be manufacturing, food production, it's going to be supply chain, logistics, and healthcare. And thinking, even if you're not a nurse, how could you contribute to a healthcare organization with the skills that you have? And kind of looking up those areas and starting to reach out to businesses, even if they don't have any sort of positions posted, because that's kind of, when we move out of this, I think employers are really going to focus on an existing pool of candidates instead of waiting to promote new positions. So already being in that pool is going to be helpful.
Yeah, and I would just add a couple of things too, from my perspective of working with students, in that light of staying proactive, is utilize your network. Making sure that you're reaching out to the people that are around you, whether it's your parents or people or for sure utilizing Stacie and myself. I remember just less than a month ago, we had a student reach out to us that was looking at relocating to Des Moines and had a company in mind that she really wanted to work for, but was unsure, how to go about applying and if they would have any openings. So I did a simple LinkedIn search of who I knew at that company, ended up finding an alumni that I had graduated with. I went to college with at Morningside, reached out to him, and he was kind of like, with everything that's going on, I can't guarantee anything. But I would be happy to maybe visit with that student. And so we connected that student with him, and she blew his socks off. I mean, it was just really impressed with her and her enthusiasm and just proactive nature. And she received a job offer from that company. And so it was just one of the perfect examples, I think, of where you can utilize your network. If your parents or if your immediate network don't necessarily know someone in that city or maybe at that company, maybe your professors do. Maybe we do at Career Services. And so really making sure that you're comfortable reaching out and asking us for help and saying, hey, do you know anyone here with this organization or in this city? The second thing that I would really add to remain proactive is having a virtual presence. I think that that's really important too, because in light of everything that's going on with social distancing, with people being more virtual, a lot of the events that you would maybe go networking at are going online, which is something I am not as comfortable with. I would much rather be seeing people face to face, but during this time, you kind of have to adapt. And if you're able to have a virtual presence and go to, like Stacie was talking about, those Chamber of Commerce, they're doing rush hour connects that are actually virtual. That's what our local Chamber of Commerce is doing, and anyone can get in on those. And so you just have to ask us for some of those resources or seek them out online. Even our Young Professionals organization here in Sioux City is doing the same thing. And so you can join those virtually, introduce yourself, learn about the people that are there or the companies that are hiring. I think that that's a huge point, is just trying to remain proactive, utilizing those resources, both online as well as the people that are maybe fighting for you and would maybe be willing to advocate for you. With all of that being said, I can only imagine that it's still challenging to find the motivation to maybe do that. I mean, I know some people, I've been on the Zooms, right? Like, I understand some people are having motivation to get out of their PJs. And so staying sane in this job search and thinking about that. Bobbi, can you talk a little bit about motivation and what you would recommend for students at this time to maybe strategies for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Motivation is a tough one, because I think a lot of times it helps if we're in person, because you feel like you have that connection, like that duty to make sure you own up to what you said you're doing. And we don't have that now. You're kind of on your own and at a distance, so it's harder to have that kind of pressure put on you. And so motivation is something that you're kind of going to have to create for yourself. And I think a number of different strategies that you could try is, first of all, build a schedule for yourself, a very consistent schedule. I think it's important that you have a consistent wake and go to bed time. You know, try to wake up the same time each day, try to go to bed at the same time each night. Fit into your daily schedule some exercise. Make sure you're eating regularly. Make sure that you're putting in all the aspects of life, social time, you know, time to be alone, time to work, time to play, all of that. The key there is to really try to balance it as much as you can. Of course, you're going to teeter-totter. Some days is going to be more heavy workload than others days, but that's okay as long as you kind of try to balance it out from day to day. But definitely finding that consistency and whatever works best for you is going to help find that motivation. And I think sometimes you have to remember that it's something that you may have to just fake it till you make it, meaning you just have to do it. And it may not be something you enjoy or that feels great, but if you do it and you continue to do it, you're building a really good habit and routine, and then it becomes much easier for you to continue to do it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think building that routine can help you be successful day and then the next day, you know, and hopefully build off of that to really establish that habit. Would you talk just a little bit? I know that there are a ton of apps and everything out there that people are utilizing. Can you talk to me just a little bit about some of the resources you've heard about, or maybe any recommendations that you would have?
Absolutely. Yeah. What a nice thing about right now with everything pretty much being virtual, or we're very dependent on our online resources, is that some of these companies are offering some free resources, which is great. And why not utilize them? Check them out. You know, if you don't like them, you're out any money. So it's a great opportunity to check them out. There's just different apps that you can load. Headspace is a very popular one, and it has some very down to earth treatment modalities that you can utilize on there. It's something that you can definitely do on your own. You don't have to be a counselor to understand them. Calm is another one that's super popular. It's been around for a little while now, but they're offering some free trials on that, and it's a wonderful app. It's a lot of meditation, relaxation skills, and it's definitely something, if you're talking about the anxiety of everything we're going through right now, it will definitely help release some of those symptoms. Different ones, I'm trying to think, there's a lot of different options there. Mind Shift is another one. Happify. There's a lot of different websites too. Active Minds, which, you know, we have a group on campus. Their website has been putting out a lot of good information that's very pertinent, because they work specifically with colleges and college students. And so they have a lot of good resources on there that you can link to from them. So that's another resource to utilize.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've downloaded some of them as well, even just to try to get on that regular sleep cycle. So I think it's important to utilize those resources, especially when they're free right now, to be able to take advantage of those. Stacie, I got to imagine that no matter how proactive some students are, maybe things didn't work out the way they had planned, or, you know, are having to put things on hold for a little bit. As we wrap up, I just wondered if you could touch on just managing those expectations for students, and, you know, if they're not hearing what they want right now, what you would recommend.
Yeah. So I think it's important to note that job search is very frustrating. Even in a robust economy, job search is very frustrating. And when you look at the national statistics, you know, for lack of a better term, they're not very optimistic from the sense of even when we're in a good economy. So the resume conversion rate nationally is, for every 10 resumes that you send, you'll get 2 interviews. And that most people have to interview 11 times before they get a job offer. So we pride ourselves here at Morningside College to have better statistics than that, and we strive to help our students do better than that. But that's kind of the stark reality of what we're facing. And so I think when you go into job search, it's important to understand that you have to stay really positive, even when maybe you're not feeling that positive. It's important for you to keep at it. So like I said, I think the May timeframe is the largest hiring timeframe in our country. And so if you're kind of thinking to yourself, you know what, this is just so stressful, I'm going to wait until COVID's over and then I'm going to start applying, at that point, you're going to be too late. And so it's important to really capitalize on the time that we have now, but really leverage your expectations. Give yourself time and space to understand that this isn't going to happen right away, or maybe in the time frame that you want. The second thing that I would say is it's important to follow up. So right now, a lot of companies are working remotely. They're working from home. They might be working short staffed. some things get put on the back burner. And unless you are constantly kind of following up, making sure that people receive your materials, finding out what the next step is, it might take a while for things to move. So it does help employers to show that you have good attention to detail, you have follow through if you're following through on those things. I would also say it's important for you to utilize your resources here. So as you apply for positions, reach out to Career Services, me and Alex. If we have any connections within that area, we will reach out. And I think the benefit of that is sometimes you learn about additional kinds of positions that way too. So we might reach out to an alum and say, hey, we have somebody who's interested in working here. And this actually just happened to me yesterday. He said, you know what, I don't have anything, but I have a buddy who does. Call him. And so I think just expanding your network as much as possible, understanding that this is going to be a long process, and continuing to communicate with Career Services. If things are not going well for you and you don't understand why, connect with us. We will talk you through it. We'll try to figure out what needs to be done differently so that you can be successful.
Keep calm and apply on. That's for sure. No doubt. Well, I really appreciate, the opportunity, Bobbi, for you joining us in Career Services for sure, for the staying sane in the job search, because it's definitely abnormal. That's for sure. Is there any last bit of advice either of you would have before we sign off on this episode?
One thing I just might mention, just kind of going off what you said, Stacie, about, just really trying to stay positive. And one way to do that is just to remember every resume you put out there, every email connection, every resource that you check into, every interview that you hopefully get, use that. Even if it doesn't end up being a job, use that as a learning experience. Make sure you learn from that. What did I get from that? How well did I do? How well did I not do? What are some things that I can change? And then connect with Stacie and Alex and, talk about, okay, this is kind of how I felt about that. What would you do differently? Definitely learn from that experience, because that's what's going to motivate you to keep going.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I would just really emphasize the fact too, that you are not in this alone. A lot of people are going through the same feelings. If you're a senior and you're applying for jobs, it did not turn out maybe the way any of us had envisioned, right? But you have to utilize your support system and understand that there are a lot of people fighting on your behalf and willing to go to bat for you and make sure that you find that position that you're looking for, or just keep in a good headspace, you know what I mean? And really make sure to reach out to your friends, but also those services that we have here at Morningside. Stacie, any last thoughts?
I think probably just in closing, I would just emphasize again, please, if you're applying, let us know where you're applying. Sometimes we don't even know the connections that we have until we do that LinkedIn search, but it really does help to have someone advocate on your behalf. And that's what Alex and I are here to do, is to advocate. I would say we are two of the most passionate people that I know, and we'll be just as excited as you when that big opportunity presents itself. So keep us posted. We really want to help.
That's for sure. So hopefully all of you are staying sane in this insane time. But if you need anything, make sure to reach out. Thank you.